My stepmother humiliated me in front of my entire family. "Go eat somewhere cheaper," she said. "The dinner is for family only." My father and my half-brother were there. I didn't cry. I did this. 3 days later, my stepmother regretted everything. I didn't make a scene. I just remembered the faces. That evening was supposed to be normal. As normal as a family dinner can be when your family includes someone who can turn any room air into a torture chamber, while smiling the whole time. I got to the Imperial right at 7, in a dress I spent so much money on that my bank account looked at me like I'd betrayed it. But I bought it anyway, because somewhere inside me, there was still that little girl who believed one simple thing. If you try hard enough, they'll notice you. If you're one of us, there'll be a place for you. I walked up to the host stand, smiled, and was just about to give my name. "Sweetie, stop." Janice's voice was loud enough for the bar, the coat check, and the couple trying to save their marriage over an overpriced dinner to hear. I slowly turned my head. Janice was standing there like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect smirk. She wore contempt like an accessory, matched to her purse. "Your name isn't on the guest list," she said, pointedly looking past me and down at the host's tablet. "Go eat somewhere cheaper. The dinner is for family only." The host, a young woman with a name tag and that unmistakable expression of, "Please don't make me part of your family hell," flicked her eyes between me and Janice. I could feel my expensive dress turning into a clown costume in real time. No makeup required. Janice was wearing the makeup. "There's some mistake," I said evenly. Too evenly. The invitation said 7. Janice smiled that smile I knew too well. The one she wore when she was enjoying herself. Like, say, when she was humiliating someone. "No mistake. Tonight is family only." The way she said family made it sound like a private club, and I'd forgotten to renew my membership. I glanced into the dining room. My father was at the big table, laughing, talking to Brandon, my stepbrother. Catherine was there too. Well, Katie, technically, but she preferred Catherine because Katie sounds too ordinary for someone trying to look like a future Wall Street shark. My father wasn't looking my way. He hadn't even realized the usual ceremony had already started at the door. "Put Maddie in her place." "Dad invited me," I repeated, reaching into my purse for my phone. "I can show you the text." Janice let out a bright, ringing laugh like I'd told a great joke. "Your father's been so forgetful lately. We're celebrating Brandon getting into law school, and we don't want you ruining his night with your presence." She said it like she was announcing, "We already ordered dessert. Sorry, you're on a diet." I froze at the host stand, and something familiar rose up in my chest. Not just hurt. It was the feeling of being carefully, politely, almost kindly, pushed out of my own life again. "Ma'am?" The host started, then caught herself. Miss..." She hesitated, because of course she didn't know how you address a woman who's being erased in public. I could have raised my voice. I could have done what people do in movies, turn toward the dining room and yell, "Dad!" But I knew how that ends. Janice would go wide-eyed. She'd say I overreacted. My father would turn pale and ask me to please not make a scene. And then someone would explain to me that I misunderstood everything. And that was the sickest part, because I understood everything perfectly. I was already halfway turned to leave when Janice stepped closer again. Her face hardened. "You're still here?" she hissed. "I told you to go, and your father agrees with me. He doesn't want you ruining our evening again with your constant whining." Those words hit harder than anything else she'd said. Because one thing is being humiliated by your stepmother. It's another when she says, "Your father agrees," and you realize she might not be lying. There was a time my dad and I were unbelievably close. After my mom died, he barely left my side. Movies, walks in the park, bike rides. Back then, it felt like I wasn't alone. that I had him, and that was enough. Then Janice showed up. Naively, I was even happy. I accepted Brandon and Catherine. I thought, finally, we'll be a family. And pretty quickly I learned, in Janice's plan, my role was already assigned. I was supposed to become invisible. At first, my father tried to protect me, but Janice could flip every situation until it sounded like I was being dramatic, jealous, exaggerating. And one day, he just stopped arguing. My presence at family events became unwanted. Invitations, when they happened, came at the last minute, so later they could say, "We did invite you." And now I stood in the lobby of the Imperial, listening to Janice kick the chair out from under me again and again, and I understood. This wasn't a mistake. This was a system. I walked outside. New York was cold and indifferent, but honest. It didn't pretend to love you and then act like you made it all up. I made it to the corner, stopped, breathed in air that smelled like exhaust, expensive perfume, and other people's lives, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself cry. Not pretty, not cinematic, just human. My phone buzzed, a text from Lauren. "Everything's ready for tomorrow's meeting. Caldwell is thrilled with the expansion idea." The irony was almost perfect. Tomorrow, I'm meeting the owner of a restaurant group, the very man whose place just became the stage for my humiliation. I looked up at the Imperial's sign. Under it, the slogan glowed, "Where moments become memories." Oh yeah, this would definitely be a memory, just not the one the marketing team promised. The next morning, I got to the office before anyone else. A cup of cold coffee sat on my desk. Presentation slides flashed behind my eyes. I tried to focus on work so I wouldn't think about last night, but my thoughts kept snapping back to that expensive dining room, Janice's laugh, and my father's face, so calmly turned away from me, like those years when I was his only beloved daughter, never happened. Lauren poked her head into my office, my business partner and my friend. The person who, over the last few years, had become closer to me than a lot of people with my last name. She set down a fresh coffee and looked at me the way people look when they don't buy, "I'm fine." "You never texted back last night," she said gently. "How was the family dinner?" I lifted my tired eyes to her, and I told her, briefly, everything. How Janice kicked me out at the door in front of everyone, how they celebrated Brandon without me, how my dad wouldn't look me in the eye, how Janice came back a second time and said he agreed. Lauren listened, getting darker with every sentence. "Your family," she exhaled. "That's something. And Janice, she's a monster. Who does that?" "Someone who's been perfecting her craft for almost 20 years, I said with a bitter half-smile. "She's had consistent practice." Lauren leaned a little closer. "You sure you're okay? Today's meeting matters." "Right now?" "No," I said honestly. "But I'll handle it, I promise." 2 hours later, we were sitting across from Richard Caldwell. His office was in Midtown Manhattan. Glass, light, a flawless view of a city that pretends it has no problems, because problems here are too expensive. For the past year, our agency had helped him grow his marketing and boost foot traffic. We built campaigns that actually worked, not just pretty, but effective. And now we were talking real partnership, profit share, expansion, new locations. Richard was strict, but fair. The kind of man who doesn't hand out smiles for free, but when he nods, it means yes. He listened carefully to our presentation. "Your last campaign was very successful," he said. "I'm impressed. It's been a pleasure working with you." I almost exhaled. The meeting was going smoothly, right up until Richard said, "I noticed you left the restaurant quickly last night. Was something wrong?" My stomach dropped. So he saw it. "Just a little mix-up with the guest list. I said as calmly as I could, trying not to let my voice shake. Lauren, catching my hesitation, jumped in. Family stuff. You know how it is. Richard studied me for a moment and frowned slightly. The woman at the door, the one who was speaking to you, is she related to you? She seemed pretty unpleasant. Yes, I admitted. She's my stepmother. I felt last night's humiliation rise up again, like someone hit replay. Richard nodded, and for a second, something like sympathy crossed his face. I see. She struck me as sharp. I'm sorry. We got back to business. And then Richard said a sentence that turned my blood cold. Yesterday, I met with another company that made a strong offer. Harrington Financial Group. I went still. Harrington Financial Group was my father's company. Catherine had recently started working there. This couldn't be a coincidence. Coincidences in my family end exactly where human decency ends. They offered serious investment into the group, Richard continued, and they spoke very highly of your agency, but they hinted that handling major capital isn't really your wheelhouse. He said it calmly, without malice, completely unaware that every word felt like a tap on my ribs. The person presenting was a young woman, Catherine Harrington, your namesake. Namesake. Yeah, sure, my stepsister, the one who looked at me like I was a dirty napkin left on an expensive table. Lauren immediately took control, asking questions. What exactly was offered? Timelines? What it included? She sounded professional and steady. I barely heard her. All I could think was, they came here too. Family dinners weren't enough. Childhood humiliation wasn't enough. They decided to invade the one part of my life I built myself. Without their money. Without their approval. Without their family rules. When we left the office, Lauren squeezed my hand. Don't worry, she said firmly. We'll find a way to keep him with us. It'll be fine. And right then, my phone buzzed. A text from my father. Heard you met with Caldwell today. Catherine said your company handles his marketing. Small world. Proud of you, kiddo. Not one word about last night. Not one mention of Catherine trying to sabotage my work. And that's when it became the final drop. Not because I suddenly hated him, because I finally understood. He wasn't going to choose my side. Not ever. I looked up at Lauren. This isn't just business anymore, I said with a steadiness I didn't used to have. It's a matter of principle. I'm not letting them humiliate me again. Lauren nodded. Then we play like adults. That evening, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Ms. Harrington? The voice was cautious. This is Andrew, Mr. Caldwell's assistant. I'm sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know. Andrew spoke like he was delivering news about a fire, and honestly, he was. Those women came back today, the one from the door and the younger one, he said. They were pressuring him, demanding he decide in their favor, and he hesitated. Your stepmother said a few things about you, about your mom. My breath caught. I knew Janice's style. When she wants to hurt you, she doesn't hit you. She hits your memories, the most painful places. And that's not all, Andrew added quickly. They showed some financial documents. I'm not an expert, but the numbers looked off. Like they were forced to fit. I thanked him and hung up. Lauren stared at me silently. They brought a fake, I said. Not as a question, as a fact. We started verifying everything. We pulled our records, emails, bank confirmations, cross-checked details, and the more we checked, the clearer it became. Catherine was trying to make it look like our agency couldn't handle it, like we had debts, like we were a risk. You know what the grossest part is? She could have competed honestly. She could have walked in and said, "We can do better." But no, it's family. And in my family, they like it best when it hurts, and when there's an audience. The next day, Richard asked us to come in again to clarify details. In his office, he opened a folder. I received an official proposal from Harrington Financial Group, he said. They want to basically rebuild my entire group under a different model, kill the brand, and call it optimization. I flipped through the pages. Pretty language, lots of promises, and underneath it, exactly what it was. Squeeze, cheapen, make it like everywhere else. They claim you and Catherine are longtime acquaintances, Richard continued, and that you would, quote, support a family partnership. I didn't even find the laugh right away. Family? I repeated. Richard, Catherine is my stepsister, and yes, she knows perfectly well we work with you. That's why she's here. Richard raised an eyebrow. So, the woman at the door, that's part of this too. She's my stepmother, I said, and last night's guest list wasn't about the restaurant. It was about showing me my place. I told him everything, briefly, factually. No drama, because Janice always used drama against me. Richard listened, growing calmer by the second. Not the calm of someone who doesn't care, the calm of someone who's already made a decision. I knew something was off, he said finally. Their numbers don't add up, and the pressure, it's too aggressive. I've been in this business a long time. I can tell interest from manipulation. He looked at me directly. And the funny thing is, they tried to paint you as the risk, but the risk is them. Richard leaned back. I don't like it when people try to twist my arm, and I respect people who build a business on work, not on schemes. Lauren sat perfectly still, like she didn't want to spook the moment. Here's what I want to offer you, Richard said. I'm planning to gradually step back. I need people who will protect the brand and grow it the right way. I want you to become my partners. Something tightened in my chest. Not panic. Surprise. Partners? Lauren whispered. Yes, we'll start with a 30% stake. We have a term sheet. Then due diligence, attorneys, closing. Everything official, transparent, the way it should be. He looked straight at me. Because you're talented, honest, and you respect what I built. And honesty costs more these days than another smiling investor. When we left his office, Lauren and I didn't speak for 10 seconds. Then we exhaled at the same time and started laughing like people who just got shocked and realized they're still alive. Do you realize how huge this is? Lauren whispered. I do, I said, and I realized something else too. I stopped. Now it's personal. Back at the office, we got to work immediately. A deal isn't cheers and champagne. It's paperwork, numbers, negotiations, banks. We started building the financial plan, discussing a credit line, partial financing for the buy-in, restructuring the agency for the workload. We worked like a train was chasing us. And honestly, sometimes it was. But the family thing still wouldn't let go. And like it sensed that, my phone buzzed again. A text from my father. Maddie, Catherine is having a small family celebration for her success at the firm. I know you may feel uncomfortable after that dinner, but your sister would be happy if you came and supported her. It felt like someone dumped ice water over me. They were doing it at the Imperial again. Catherine was so sure she'd won that she was already planning to announce her success publicly without even waiting for Richard's official decision. I showed the message to Lauren. She gave a sarcastic little smile, the one she gets right before a fight. Of course, your sister is always in a rush to crown herself the winner. What are you going to say? I stared at the screen and felt something solid form inside me. I think I should go, I said calmly. Lauren stared. You're serious? After everything? Exactly because of it, I said. I need to end this once and for all. But first, I took one more step. The next day, we met with Richard. I explained the situation and asked for one favor. permission to reveal the partnership at the event, even though things were still quiet publicly. Richard listened carefully. Then he nodded. "Sometimes justice needs witnesses," he said. "I get why this matters. And yes, you have my permission, at the right moment." I walked out of his office feeling like I didn't have documents in my bag. I had a match, and I knew exactly where to strike it. The day of the family celebration arrived. This time I went to the Imperial in a sleek black dress. Elegant, calm. No attempt to be sweet, because I was done. At the entrance, the same host recognized me. She looked a little surprised, then quickly said, "Ms. Harrington, your family is already seated. Would you like me to walk you over?" "Thank you. I've got it," I said, and went on my own. At the big table sat my relatives and a few guests. Janice's friends, people from my father's company, Catherine's acquaintances. Faces, smiles, champagne flutes. That familiar circle of our people that had always been closed to me. My father looked the same as always, tight and uneasy. Like a man who lives between "I don't want conflict" and "why is everything falling apart?" Janice spotted me first. Her expression changed for 1 second, just barely. Then she snapped her usual smile back on like she was putting a mask in place. "Maddie, what a surprise!" she said loudly. "You decided to bless us after all. We even prepared a little separate table for you, so you'll be comfortable." A separate table, so everyone could see. I was not quite family. I was separate, off to the side, conveniently unnecessary. I felt the guests' eyes on me, that familiar heat rising in my face. But this time, I didn't let it turn into shame. "Thank you, Janice," I said evenly, "but I won't need a separate table." Janice lifted an eyebrow. Her voice went colder. "Oh, sweetheart, I insist. It's a special evening for Catherine, and we wouldn't want anyone to feel awkward." Soft laughter rippled around the table. Catherine smiled like she was watching a show where she already knew the ending. I took a step forward. "Awkward?" I repeated, calm. "About what exactly?" Janice opened her mouth, but I continued, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I think we should clarify something with the owner of the place first." Janice smirked. "Richard Caldwell doesn't handle seating. If you're trying to get his attention, you can try, but I wouldn't recommend it." I looked her straight in the eye. "I wasn't talking about seating." And right then, Richard Caldwell himself walked up to the table. With him was the floor manager, and the host with the tablet, who now looked like she was watching Karma walk through the front doors. "Good evening, Madeline," Richard greeted me warmly. He turned to the staff. "Is the table for our partner ready?" "Yes, Mr. Caldwell," the host replied politely. "Just as you requested." Silence fell over the table, the kind of silence where even a spoon sounds like thunder. Janice went pale. Catherine stopped smiling. My father slowly stood. "What is happening?" he asked, looking between me and Richard. I took another step forward. Calm. No triumph. No raised voice. "I'd like to officially introduce everyone to my new business partner, Mr. Caldwell," I said, looking first at Janice, then at Catherine. "Last week we signed the term sheet. The attorneys are finalizing details and we're moving toward closing. But one thing is already certain. We're taking an equity stake in the Imperial Group." I paused. Short, clean, like a light switch flipping. "And if I'm not mistaken, this dinner is happening in one of our restaurants." The shock on my relatives' faces was priceless. Janice dropped her glass. It shattered on the floor. The sound was perfect, honest, no smiles. Catherine opened and closed her mouth, but nothing came out. "That's impossible," she finally choked out. Richard looked at her calmly, like an adult looking at a child who thinks saying no loudly will scare reality away. "It's completely possible," he said. "And by the way, Thank you for your proposal. It helped me make my decision. Janice tried to jump in. Richard, there must be some misunderstanding. Maddie is just emotional. Richard turned to her. A misunderstanding is mixing up dates, bringing financial documents with numbers that don't add up and pressuring my team. That isn't a misunderstanding. Catherine went even wider. My father stood there like a man who had just realized that years of "I don't want conflict" isn't neutrality. It's a choice, and choices have a price. I looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I felt no hope, no pleading, just calm. Enjoy your evening, I said evenly. I hope there are enough tables for everyone. I picked up my bag, turned, and walked away. Not because I was offended, because I was finally done participating in a show where my role was always the extra. After that, my father's family stopped inserting themselves into my life. Catherine left my father's company once it became clear her project had failed. For people like her, confidence lives on victories. Without the victory, all that's left is an expensive suit and empty words. Janice, I heard, had a few very unpleasant evenings when her friends started asking questions. New York can smile to your face and whisper behind your back with such professional skill, it honestly feels like an industry. Lauren and I threw ourselves fully into the work. The deal moved forward the way deals do. Attorneys, reviews, reports, approvals. Richard gradually stepped back and trusted us with more and more. The group started growing. We opened new locations, strengthened the brand, did what we do best, turned an idea into a system. Our agency went from nice girls with pretty slides to a real business that started drawing interest from investors and the press. And you know what's funniest? When you build success, the people who used to say, "You can't do it," suddenly show up. Sometimes they even pretend they believed in you all along. A few months passed. One warm evening, Lauren and I were sitting at a cozy cafe near Central Park, talking through plans, new campaigns, new locations. It was calm. For the first time in a long time, calm. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. Maddie, I don't expect you to respond right away, but I want you to know I'm always ready to talk. I'm glad you're happy. I stared at the screen and felt a strange weight. Not anger, not resentment. Grief. For the years I wanted one thing so badly, to be important to him. I called him. He answered immediately, like he'd been holding the phone in his hand. Maddie, he said, guilt in his voice. I'm sorry. I truly didn't think it would turn into all this. Janice always said you were exaggerating, and I didn't want unnecessary conflict. I listened and realized. Inside me, there wasn't rage anymore, and no urge to prove anything. Just clarity. Dad, I said quietly. I forgave you a long time ago. Not because you earned it, because I needed to stop carrying this inside me. He didn't speak. But I don't want to go back to the past, I continued. I'm not blaming you, and I'm not excusing you anymore. You chose your life with Janice. I respect that. Now I have my life. On the other end, he was silent for a long time. Then he exhaled. I understand. Honey, I'm so sorry, and I'm proud of you, even if I never said it out loud. You did everything yourself, and I'm happy for you. Those words tightened my throat. The cruelest thing about late words is that they arrive when you've already stopped waiting for them. And that's why they don't feel like a prize. They feel like a reminder of how much time you lived without them. But alongside the ache, there was something else. Freedom. I ended the call, set my phone down, and felt something lighten, like I'd finally closed a heavy door I'd been keeping cracked open just in case. And if you're listening to this story right now, remember one thing. When someone tells you there's no place for you, the problem is rarely the place. The problem is the people who think love is a privilege, and that respect has to be earned through humiliation. And you're not a folding chair. You don't get put away so you won't be in the way. So tell me, did I go too far? Or did I finally do exactly what needed to be done? Drop it in the comments.